Why is it so hard to become a police officer? And can you make it through the process? The answer is yes, you can. Let's discuss. Hey, before we get started, listen, down below are those two gifts I have for you. One is the Getting Started workshop. It's going to walk you through every phase of the hiring process, give you those inside tips you need to know. And then also it's got a few extra bonuses such as written exam practice and a graded test in there and a few other things. If you have something more specific to you and you want to sit down and discuss it, I have a free coaching call down below for you as well. Sign up for both of them, sign up for either one. I'm always here to help. Let's get into it. Why is it so hard to become a police officer? And the answer is, it's just the way it's always been. And when I say it's just the way it's always been, I mean, it's the way it's always been for the last 30 years, 40 years, 40's pushing it, 30 years, definitely. The thing that most people underestimate when they go through the hiring process is they treat it like it's the same type of application process as a normal job. And that's just not the way it works. That's not the way the government works. And it's definitely not the way law enforcement works. You've heard me probably say this before. It's harder to become a cop than it is the president of the United States. Now, I'm being facetious here, but at the same point, there's a lot of things that you have to do to jump through hurdles. And each individual is a roadblock. Is a hurdle, right? Is an obstacle that you have to overcome. And if you have your own obstacles, say issues in your background, such as employment history, bad credit, things like that, those are additional hurdles you're going to have to jump over. But hear me when I say this. And if you listen to one part of this whole thing, it's this: you can do it. A lot of people do it every single day. And I know you can do it too. I'm here to support you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I will get back to them as soon as I can, and I'll answer whatever I can for you, or sign up for either one of those free gifts that I give you. But listen, you can do this. Don't let anyone tell you can't. It's a long, arduous process. It takes time. Sometimes it takes longer than others. Some departments aren't as efficient. Some departments partner with their human resource department, which is also not as efficient because their human resource department is probably for the whole city or town, maybe even for the whole state government agency, and you have to bounce around through them, and they don't necessarily all work in the same location. So it's emails and phone calls, and then you have background investigators that are just overtasked with multiple different candidates that are applying. So while it can be tedious and daunting, just know that all you really need to make it through the process is to not give up. If you don't give up, you will make it through the process, as long as you don't mess up as well. But as long as you don't give up and you keep working and getting better, you'll make it through the process. Now, I'm not sitting here to tell you to just keep rolling out resumes and applications to multiple different departments, because as you've heard me say before, each one of them winds up becoming another hurdle if they turn you down, which you can usually easily explain. There we go. Easily explain, as long as it's not something that's a major disqualifying factor. But if you're going to go through it, you might as well get it right on the first shot, because each time after that becomes another hurdle that you have to explain, and a longer application process because you have to say where you're at. And if that's what it takes, you can do this. Trust me, you can do this. A lot of times you're running this race, and you're going to hear me use this analogy a lot more these days. You're running this race. It's a 400 meter, 600 meter, whatever you want to call it, 1600 meter, right? It doesn't matter. But you're going to run this race, and at the beginning of the starting line, right at the starting line, that's the time that is, say that's 10 years ago, because most departments do background checks within the last 10 years. Say that's 10 years ago. The finish line is the current present right now while you're applying, and that's you getting a job offer, at the point in the present where you get the job offer. Everything at the beginning of the race, they're just small hurdles, right? The time and distance makes the hurdle smaller. But everything there at the beginning of the race, they're just small hurdles. A lot of times just speed bumps. You can, with the right stride, you can just run right over them. But as you keep getting closer to the finish line, if you wind up putting hurdles in your own way, and what I mean by this is speeding tickets, poor recent credit history, poor work history, any type of drug involvement, any type of illegal activity, any of that stuff that you put closer to the finish line is going to make those hurdles taller. And if you trip and fall over a hurdle, that's you not getting the job. That's you, hey, I gotta sign up for the next race and run the next race. But guess what? You can keep racing as long as possible, or not even as long as you want, as long as you can legally do it. And agencies out there, not every agency has an age cap to it. So you can keep running the race as much as you want. Just know that you add different hurdles. Now, it doesn't mean that if you don't get selected for a department that it's a huge hurdle at the end of the race. No, it may be recent, but it's not a huge hurdle. Those hurdles are just something you just have to clearly articulate, and you jump right over them. But as I said, closer to the finish line, your work history, any type of speeding tickets or traffic infractions, those are all things that wind up adding up. And if you have hurdles back to back to back and they keep getting taller and taller, it's going to be hard to jump over them, right? You're going to trip right at the finish line, right when you need to come across. Now, here's the best part about running this race is you don't have to come in first. I want you to come in first. I want to help you come in first, of course, but you have to come in 25th or better. And the reason I say 25th or better is because if you're applying to a department that has its own academy, where they usually run academy sizes somewhere between 20 and 40 people, average that I normally see is 25, then you just need to be in the top 25 people applying during that cycle. And if you are in that top 25, you're going to get that official offer letter at the end of the day. And you're going to be able to go through the academy, smoke check the academy, and become a law enforcement officer and have your dream job. And the pay is better these days, way better these days. The benefits are always great. They've always been great. And you can just go through what you need to. My first law enforcement job, my first year, and I hate working overtime. My first year, I was able to pay off 2 vehicles and tens of thousands of dollars off of my house. So when I say tens of thousands of dollars off my house, I mean above what the minimum payment was. So keep this in mind, right? A lot of people are going through this process and they may get a letter saying, hey, you didn't get selected, or hey, you didn't advance past this process. The only reason this will honestly have an impact on you is if you quit. Most people don't actually fail at things. Most people don't fail. When I see someone fail at something, that means that they gave it their 100% all. They put everything into it, and they physically or mentally cannot go past that point. I mean, it's actual, they're at a limitation that is impossible, and therefore they failed. Most people, and when I say most people, I mean 99% of people never reach failure. And it's a beautiful thing to actually reach failure and know, hey, I did everything, because at the point in which you have failure, there's no regrets, because you can look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I gave it my all and I just came up short. There's nothing wrong with that. The best part is even if you fail, that just means you can try again. Just because you failed doesn't mean it's over. Now, what most people do is quit. Most people go through the process and they say, oh, I've applied to 3 departments and I didn't get hired, and that's just it, I'm done. As I've said in another video or in other videos, one of my old partners applied to 67 departments before getting hired. And the main reason he wasn't getting hired was just poor articulation and not being the most qualified applicant. But he winded up changing some things around, getting a little bit more experience, and then got hired on. And now he's a supervisor in the department he's in now. And on top of that, he's a lead instructor for multiple different platforms. And he's doing great. You need to understand that that is the ideal situation of not giving up. He could have quit, and then he would have never became a law enforcement officer, which was his dream job. So I reiterate this to you. Don't quit. You don't have to quit. I'm here to, if you're thinking about quitting, send a message. Listen, right now, if you're thinking about quitting or you're feeling the weight of this hiring process on your shoulders, leave a comment below. Leave a comment just saying, yep, I feel it. I've been there, and I'll help you through it. I promise I'll help you through it. Just do what you can do to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I've heard this old saying from a mentor of mine years ago, and it was actually in my first police academy. And we sat down on the first day, and he comes in and says, hey, this is going to be like eating an elephant. You don't sit down at one sitting and eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time. And next thing you know, at the end, months and months later, you're graduating and you're getting your badge pinned on, and you're going out and you're protecting and serving your community. So listen, this is for everyone out there who needs that motivation, who needs to go through the process, who's getting worn down through this arduous hiring process. I'm here. I support you. You can do this. You can do this. Just don't quit, and you can get through this hiring process. Listen, those gifts are still down below for you. They're going to help you through this hiring process. They're going to give you a little bit more motivation, and I'm going to give you some motivation. So the Getting Started workshop is going to walk you through the entire process. It's got some bonuses such as some practice exams, which give you immediate results after you finish. And then on top of it, if you need something more specific or tailored to you, sign up for a coaching call. I'll jump in there on it with you, and we will sit down and discuss your situation specifically. As always, stay safe, and I will see you next time.